Picture this. It is the last week of December, the lights are still up. Your social media feed is full of perfectly edited year-in-review videos, and somewhere between the third cup of holiday coffee and a late-night scroll, you quietly promise yourself that from January 1st, everything will finally change. You will wake up early, eat clean, stop doom scrolling, fix your sleep, become more confident, less anxious, more focused, more grateful. You start making lists, saving productivity hacks, maybe even buying a new notebook or app because this time you want it to be serious. And then, around the second or third week of January, real life quietly walks back into the room. Work deadlines, tired evenings, emotional hangovers, the same unresolved conversations, the same fears, the same body and nervous system. Suddenly, your perfect plan starts cracking, you skip a few days, and a familiar thought appears. Here we go again. I failed before the year even started. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, this video is for you. By the end of it, you will have a different way to relate to the new year, one that does not depend on willpower alone, and does not require you to become a completely different person overnight. Instead, you will learn how to break what I will call the new year, new you trap, and replace it with a quieter but much more powerful idea. Continuity instead of self-destruction, seasons instead of magical dates, and small honest contracts with yourself instead of giant punishing resolutions. Somewhere halfway through, we will talk about one simple mental switch that can completely change the way you see January. But first, let us name the pattern you keep falling into. Let us call it the calendar reset trap. On the surface, the calendar reset trap looks harmless, even inspiring. It is the belief that dates like January 1st or the start of a new week or a new month are like magical portals. You step through, and you become a new, upgraded version of yourself. Your brain loves this idea because it gives you a clean narrative. The old me is behind, the new me starts now. Psychologists sometimes call this the fresh start effect, and it is real. Temporal landmarks like New Year do give you a feeling of distance from your past mistakes, and that can boost motivation. In practice, though, the calendar reset trap adds one dangerous extra layer. It quietly tells you that you can only start or restart on these special days, and that if you do not transform fast enough, you have wasted your chance. It is not self-discipline, it is self-pressure dressed as optimism. The trap is not that you want to grow. The trap is that you keep trying to grow by deleting yourself. To understand why this hurts so much, imagine your life as an operating system. All year long, you run a certain set of background programs. Your beliefs about yourself, your stress patterns, your coping mechanisms, your habits. On New Year's Eve, you announce that from January 1st, you will run a completely new version of yourself with new features. Fearless, organized, focused, emotionally stable. But you try to install this shiny new app on the same system without changing the underlying code, environment, or energy. The calendar changes, but the operating system does not. You still have the same nervous system, the same sleep debt, the same emotional wounds, the same relationships, the same house that feels chaotic after the holidays, the same job that drains you at specific hours. So on day one of your transformation, you are already fighting the gravity of your existing life. That does not mean you are weak. It means you are human. Your brain is designed to conserve energy and repeat what is familiar. When you demand overnight transformation, your brain hears danger, not growth. There is another part of the trap, the holiday season itself. The end of the year puts you inside a psychological pressure cooker. You compare your year to other people's highlight reels. You hear jokes and comments about weight, success, relationships, achievements. Families ask when you will finally fix something in your life. Advertisers tell you that new objects can give you a new self. It is very easy to walk away from this season with the feeling that your entire life needs a full system reboot, and that if you do not do it now, you will be stuck forever. When you live inside this story, every small slip becomes proof that you are broken. One skipped workout means the new you is gone. One anxious week at work means your calm, focused self was a lie. The cost of the calendar reset trap is not just broken resolutions, it is accumulated shame. Every year you promise, every year you collapse, and every year your trust in yourself erodes a little more. With time, you do not only doubt your plans, you start doubting your identity. Maybe I am just lazy. Maybe growth is not for me. And ironically, this shame makes it harder to try any small changes in the middle of the year because you are waiting for the next magical date to give you permission again. If you recognize yourself in this, pause for a moment and notice how your body feels when you remember your past Januaries. Maybe there is tension in your chest, a heaviness in your stomach, or a tired sense of I know how this goes. You are not imagining it. Your nervous system has learned to associate New Year with a cycle of hope and disappointment. But here is the good news. This cycle is not destiny. It is a story your mind has rehearsed because nobody taught you another script. You can rewrite it. To do that, you do not need bigger goals. You need a different relationship with time, change, and your own past. Let us build a small toolkit for that. The first tool is what we can call the Honest Year Snapshot. Before you decide who you must become next year, you need a gentle, realistic picture of who you actually were this year. Not the version filtered by your inner critic. Not the version your relatives comment on at holiday dinners, but the version seen with calm, curious eyes. The honest year. Snapshot is simple. You sit down for 10 or 15 minutes, ideally with a piece of paper, and you divide your year into 3 categories in your mind. What stayed the same, where you quietly grew, and where you stayed stuck or in pain. When you think about what stayed the same, you look at your routines, your relationships, the emotional patterns that repeated. Maybe you still use your phone late at night. Maybe you still avoid certain conversations. Maybe you still feel anxious before meetings. The goal here is not to judge, it is to see continuity. Then you ask where you quietly grew even if no one else noticed. Maybe your self-awareness improved, you identified a toxic pattern. You started setting 1 or 2 boundaries. You became slightly more patient with someone, or you survived a hard season without collapsing in ways you once would have. Your brain often deletes these small wins because they do not look dramatic enough to post online. Finally, you acknowledge where you remained stuck or in pain. Maybe you kept promising to rest and never did. Maybe you stayed in a draining job or relationship. Maybe you repeatedly abandoned your own needs to keep peace. The key is to describe, not attack yourself. You are basically saying, this is the landscape I am standing in on December 31st. This is the real operating system. When you do this, something important happens. Instead of trying to escape your year, you inhabit it. You stop treating your past self as an enemy to erase and start seeing them as someone you are continuing from. A simple experiment for the next 24 hours. Later today, take just 5 minutes and write down 3 things from each category in a note on your phone. 3 things that stayed the same, 3 ways you grew, 3 places you stayed stuck. If you feel comfortable, you can share 1 small growth moment in the comments. Not to brag, but to remind yourself that you are not only your failures. The second tool is the 1% thread. The calendar reset trap loves dramatic transformation. You will change everything at once. The 1% thread asks a different question. What is the smallest, most fragile piece of growth from this year that you want to quietly carry into the next, even if nothing else changes? Imagine you learned to say no 1 extra time at work this year, or you restarted reading books for 10 minutes a few evenings, or you caught yourself mid-spiral with anxiety once or twice. Those are thin threads of a new pattern, and your job in the new year is not to rip them out in the name of a bigger plan, but to protect and strengthen them by just 1%. 1% is not a number, it is an attitude. It means you do not ask, how do I become a completely disciplined person this year? But how can I support this tiny act of discipline I already showed so it happens slightly more often? For example, if you notice that you sleep better on the rare days when you charge your phone in another room, your 1% thread might be making that happen just 1 extra night per week in January, not every night forever. If you occasionally took a walk when overwhelmed instead of scrolling, your 1% thread might be planning those walks into 2 specific evenings next month. You do not build a new self, you prolong a new behavior. The magic here is that your identity follows your actions over time. When you consistently protect and grow 1 small thread, your brain starts quietly updating its story about you. Maybe I am someone who can change small things. This is a much more stable foundation than declaring I will transform everything on Monday. An experiment for the coming week. From your honest year snapshot, choose 1 genuinely small change that already appeared in your life this year, even once, and decide 1 tiny way you will make it easier to repeat. You might write it down as a sentence, and if you want, share that sentence in the comments as a public commitment. The third tool is the seasonal switch. Part of why New Year resolutions feel so heavy is because they are tied to a single day that is expected to carry an entire year of transformation. The seasonal switch invites you to think in terms of seasons instead of dates. Instead of telling yourself my life starts on January 1st, you say my next 90 days are 1 season of gentle experiments. Neuroscience and behavioral psychology both support this idea indirectly. Your brain learns better from repeated small experiences over time than from 1 huge push. Seasons also match how your body and environment work. Winter has its own energy, shorter days, colder weather in many places, social rhythms that are different from summer. When you embrace this, you stop asking winter to behave like August. The seasonal switch works like this. You give your next 3 months a simple theme or question instead of a list of rigid resolutions. For example, your winter season could be the season of rebuilding energy, or the season of learning to rest without guilt, or the season of steady mornings. Then you choose 2 or 3 light experiments that fit this theme. If your theme is rebuilding energy, you might experiment with going to bed 15 minutes earlier 3 nights per week, saying no to 1 social event that drains you, and adding 1 slow walk per week. If your theme is learning to rest without guilt, you might schedule a tiny daily break where you deliberately do something useless for 10 minutes and practice noticing and naming the guilt instead of obeying it. The point is that you are not promising to be a new person. You are exploring a new way of living inside a specific stretch of time. It is much easier for your brain to cooperate with this. It also gives you permission to adjust when the next season comes. When spring arrives, your body and mind will be in a slightly different place, and you can choose a new theme. An experiment here. Sometime during the holidays, ask yourself what 1 word you want your next 3 months to feel like, not what you want to achieve. Calm, solid, curious, connected, lighter, rooted. Pick one and let your small decisions serve that feeling instead of an abstract ideal of perfection. The 4th tool is the gentle contract with your future self. The calendar reset trap turns your future self into a strict boss. They expect you to arrive at next December transformed, and if you fail, they punish you with shame. The gentle contract replaces that boss with a collaborator. Imagine you could sit down with yourself 12 months from now, not as a judge, but as a friend who has seen everything you went through. What kind of present would they actually want from you? Probably not a perfectly optimized life, but a few well-tended areas. Slightly better health, 1 or 2 relationships that feel safer, a bit more clarity about what matters to you, less self-betrayal. The gentle contract is a short letter you write from today to that future self. You do not promise to become unrecognizable. You choose 3 realistic commitments that respect your limits. For example, I will not talk to myself in ways I would never use with someone I love. At least not without noticing and correcting it when I do. I will protect 1 small pocket of time each week that belongs only to me, even if it is just 20 minutes. I will allow myself to be a beginner at 1 new thing without demanding immediate results. You keep this letter somewhere you can find later. The power of this contract is not in the paper. It is in the shift of tone. You move from I must impress my future self to I want to take care of them. When you make decisions in January, you can ask, is this choice good for the person I will be sitting here next December? Or am I just trying to remove discomfort today? This question moves you out of the drama of the moment and back into a longer view without perfectionism. If you feel brave, you can share in the comments 1 sentence you would like your future self to read next December. It might help someone else articulate their own. Underneath all these tools is 1 big psychological shift, from erasing your past to integrating it. The New Year, New You story secretly teaches you that your past self is an embarrassment you should walk away from. But real growth is more like editing a manuscript than burning it. You keep parts, cut parts, rewrite sentences, and slowly the story changes shape, but it is still your story. When you look back at this year with honesty instead of contempt, you send a different message to your nervous system. I am worth working with, not against. This matters because your brain is not a machine you control by pressing start on January 1st. It is a living system that responds to safety, meaning, and repeated experience. Guilt and self-hate can push you into short bursts of action, but they do not create sustainable patterns. What does create them is a blend of clarity and compassion, seeing exactly what you do without pretending, and then taking responsibility for what you can influence today, not in some perfect imaginary future. You might be wondering at this point, if I stop believing in the magic of New Year, will I lose the motivation it gave me? The answer is that you are not killing the magic, you are relocating it. Instead of pouring all your hope into 1 date, you distribute it across the year. Every Monday can be the start of a micro-season. Every evening can be a mini reset where you ask, what did I learn today? And how can tomorrow be 1% kinder to me? When you do this, January stops being a high-stakes exam and becomes just 1 chapter in a longer story of you learning to work with your own mind. This is that simple mental switch I promised at the beginning. Change your relationship with beginnings. A beginning is not a door that slams shut if you stumble. It is a path you can step onto any day. especially the messy ones in the middle of the year when nobody is watching. If you only allow yourself to start on symbolic dates, you will always be waiting. If you allow yourself to start on random Tuesdays, you become powerful. So as the holidays approach or unfold, notice where you feel the urge to make grand declarations. Instead of saying from January I will be a new person, try something softer and more accurate. From this week on, I am experimenting with living slightly differently, and New Year is just a convenient marker, not a magical spell. You can still enjoy the rituals, the lists, the reflection, but you are no longer held hostage by them. Your life is not a series of failed attempts at reinvention. It is a continuous experiment in understanding and caring for the mind you have. If you take anything from this video, let it be this. You do not need a new you for the new year. You need a kinder, clearer relationship with the you that is already here. With the Honest Year Snapshot, the 1% thread, the seasonal switch, and the gentle contract, you have a small protocol you can actually remember and use. First, you see your year honestly. Then you choose one small thread to strengthen. You frame your next months as a season of experiments instead of a test. And you write to your future self as someone you love, not someone you must impress. That is enough to start changing the operating system underneath your habits. Not overnight, but steadily. And every time you notice the new year, new you trap whispering that you are already behind, you can answer, there is no behind in an experiment. There is only data. If this way of looking at the holidays and the new year shifted something in you, treat that as the first 1%. And if you want to keep building a real toolkit for better thinking, clearer choices, and a more compassionate relationship with your own mind, this is exactly what we are doing here on Mind Unlocked. Like this video if it helped you step out of the old script. Share it with someone who quietly dreads January every year. And subscribe so you and I can keep adding tools to your mental toolkit for better thinking, steadier emotions, and a life that changes, not because the calendar demands it, but because you are learning to work with your mind instead of against it.